Hi guys, Ryuu here from Blender Bros, and in this video we're gonna be designing sci-fi tire for a motorcycle. Let's go. So let's grab a cylinder, and we're going to change the number of verse to 50. So if you don't see that window, just click here, change from 32 to 50 here. And we're going to rotate it on y-axis, so RY90. Scale it a bit, and let's make it a bit more wide. Let's scale it on x-axis like this. Go to edit mode with machine tools, and if you don't know how to use machine tools, watch my videos, links in the video description. The same with hard ups and box cutter. I'm gonna be using them as well. Let's create a loop in here and another loop, in fact 2 loops in here. So Ctrl R and scroll your mouse and create kind of like a, this kind of an effect here. Alt X and mirror to the other side with mesh machine. If you don't have mesh machine, Alt X with hard ups in edit mode, press the symmetry and symmetrize it. Yeah. Now here what we're gonna do is we're gonna create kind of like an edge around. So select them both, and in face mode and inside it with shift, create this kind of like an edge here, and then let's insert it one more time. Okay, one more time, and then right click and loop tools and bridge. And if you don't have bridge, go to edit preferences and enable loop tools. Now I have a video on setting up my UI, which you may need later on for rendering, and all the add-ons I'm using from Blender, etc. So go ahead and watch the UI video because there's no point of me, repeating that in here. Now, this one here could be moved inside, so SX and move it inside. Select these faces SX and kind of scale it in here, like that. Select this loop and Control B that. In fact, scroll your mouse to create a bevel here, kind of like a softish bevel, softish, and Alt X to the other side. Here we could add another loop, one here and one here on the top. Okay, and then we can run sub D on it. So Control 3, right click and shade smooth, and it should be peachy. So we got this rim here. We got this rim here, everything is great. Cool. And this could be a little bit wider, to be honest. So SX, make it a bit wider. That's cool. Nice. Maybe this bit in the middle is a little bit too wide. So select them with Shift and Control Plus, and then, SX, and just scale it out a little bit like that. And I think this will do. Cool. So select these two in the middle here, and Q and Control click on Curve Extract. This will extract this bit in the middle. We're going to keep the subdivision and go here, and we're going to solidify this inside. So solidified inside like that. Cool. We will need to fix this rim here to make it a bit more, bit more sharpish. Yeah, because it's a metal. So do that, and I think we're gonna be fine. We could apply solidification, so move solidification above sub D, and actually let's apply the solidification, and we could move these edges a bit closer. So here, GG, move it a bit closer. Here too, GG, and move it closer. Could create one more here in the middle and split it. Because this bit in the middle needs to be metallic, so it needs to be a little bit more, on the sharp side, okay? So here we could actually taper this inside. So select these two, Control Plus and Control Plus, and SX, and kind of taper it inside like that. It's going to be a bit more interesting, I think. Cool. Need the middle bit, okay? So let's just grab a middle bit. So cylinder, R190, and scale it in. Kind of like, make it smaller like that. Actually, maybe even smaller than that. There you go. Maybe even smaller. And then what we're gonna do is scale this a bit. So SX and scale it in. There we go. And now we're going to extrude it and then cancel and scale it with S, E, and extrude it outside. Like this. Inset it, right, and then extrude it inside, quite deep. Okay. Probably have to pass the middle, and then Alt X in edit mode and mirror to the other side. Again, if you don't have a mesh machine, just simply use hard ops. Control A, apply scale one more time. Let's create a machined, have a look to it. Smaller chamfer here. Could add another here in the back, although it's going to be barely visible. But it will work. Could create some kind of a nice pattern of circular cuts. So let's grab a circle here, and you could enable dots here with box cutter, which will ensure that you're going to be cutting in the middle. Shift click and go to edit mode, select that, Shift D, and create a pattern here like this. Right? Let's just move it on the axis up here, and in fact let's move this one a little bit deeper. So rotate it on cursor, so rotate it on cursor here, maybe a little bit lower, so GZ somewhere here. And that's, that's a one object. So what we can do now is go here to mesh tools and control click on radial array, and it's going to kind of create a circular array around it. There we go. That's pretty cool. Awesome. And we can subdivide it, control 2. It's not a big deal. It's gonna mess up our booleans, but we can move the booleans below. A subdivision is gonna be fine. It's gonna take a bit of time because of all these small circles. There we go. It's a complete mess. So let's move the boolean beneath the subdivision. Everything is peachy, and we can create very simply bevel with shader. But we got some problem here with the boolean. It doesn't go through. So SX, make sure it goes through completely. There we go. That's better. That looks pretty cool. Awesome. So now here in the middle, we could create a loop and kind of insert it. So S Shift X, and let's just extrude it like that. Create another one in the middle, securing a loop, and do this, and then Alt and macro, move it inside, and we're gonna have to insert it here. So select that and insert it to secure the subdivision, and we're gonna have this cut in the middle. Looks pretty badass. All right, cool. So we got that covered, and here, of course, in the middle, we're gonna have some structures. So control click. Actually, you know what? We could add a cylinder here in the middle. We don't have to worry about that. Cool. So now we need some spokes. Yeah, that's really easy. Shift A, add a plane, and let's scale it down. Okay, really small. Drop it down here, and we're gonna make it even smaller, I think. Although cannot be too small. Let's just switch here to individual origins. Cannot be too feeble. Let's rotate it, holding control S, Y, Y, or X, X actually. There you go. Expand it here, but don't make it too big. And we're going to subdivide it. So subdivide it like this. Select everything with A. Subdivide and Shift R twice, and then we're gonna apply scale and Shift select this 1Q modifiers and shrink wrap. I'm going to apply shrink wrap here, and we're going to solidify this. Okay, so modifier solidify. Well, just this one. Okay, solidify. There we go. And let's actually apply this. So visual to mesh, select these, so here 2, 4, hope 4 is not too many, and then extrude it, right? So go to side view and E and extrude it inwards here until they go inside of this shape. Perfect. And now we're going to subdivide it. So Control 2 and shade smooth. And we need some securing loops here. So we need one loop here. And now we can actually, you know, play with the bevel here a bit. So, okay, now we don't need all these edges here. So let's dissolve these two. Dissolve these and these. Okay, and then we're going to select these two and these two and bevel them. All right. And then what we need is, we don't really need this edge here. We don't need these two, and then this one could be beveled. So remove this one and remove this one, and then select that and bevel. Okay, that's great. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so here. And once you remove it, you can grab that and bevel. Okay, cool. And, you know, sharpen to shade smooth. And we're gonna add some bevel to it through the bevel shader. And now once we did that, Control A applies a rotation and Q, and we're gonna rotate it around the cursor, which is in the middle. So mesh tools and Control click on radial array, press X to change the axes, and we just need a few of them, to be honest. We don't need too many. Okay, that many will do, right? That already looks pretty cool. All right, so with this done, we need to create the grooves and tires. So let's just select the plane here, move it up, and make it less narrow, less wide, and SX, this is still too wide. There we go. R, hold control and rotate it. More or less 45, although it doesn't have to be 45 really, it could be kind of like this, you know. There we go, and then Shift D, Y, R, Z, and hold control. SXX, scale it down. And this will do, and select them both and apply scale, and apply rotation. And then let's just select this one and add some loops. So Control R, select all, right click, subdivide, Shift R twice, same here. So Control R, apply some loops, select everything and right click, subdivide, Shift R. So now we're gonna shrink wrap them, yeah? So select them both, Control J, Shift S to geometry, Shift select this one, Q, modifiers, shrink wrap, okay? We're gonna select this, Control A, Visual to Mesh, and modifier, solidify, press 2 to solidify both ways. Don't make it too deep. Yeah, not too deep. And this should do. And actually we could make it a bit deeper, so, you know, something like that. Visual to Mesh, and then we need to select these edges here. These two, Control B and, you know, bevel. Cool. And let's sharpen it. Awesome. And then Shift select that and difference. PG. Now go to side view, Q, just select this one. Q, mesh tools, Control click radial array, X, and scroll up to create more of these. They start overlapping, so that's not ideal. So let's go to radial array and, you know, reduce the mounts. Okay, now for this to work, what we need to do is we need to apply subdivision. Otherwise, you know, it's not gonna work. Now here we need to apply subdivision. I would go with 3 levels in viewport, so make it a bit more dense, and then, you know, apply the subdivision. And then once you do that, you can apply the boolean, okay? And then you can, you know, sharpen this, and you're gonna get perfect shading. But don't worry about it. We're gonna be using bevel shader to actually bevel this, because if you're gonna run a bevel on top of it, it's gonna be a disaster. You will need to do a lot of cleaning. So that's our tire done. But we're not done yet because we're gonna do one more thing. Okay, so last thing what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a text. So to the text, we can change the font here if you want to something a bit more cool. Under fonts, I'm just gonna grab, you know, something like, I don't know. Oh, this one is fine. Viper. Mark. Oh, MR6. Oh, MR3. Or maybe Mark 2. And, you know, scale this down and make it wider. Apply scale. Whoa, okay then. Visual to mesh. Then apply scale. Cool. Let's rotate it like this. Let's scale this. Right, it's too big. And then we're going to move this origin to geometry. Cool. And move it to cursor. And rotate it one more time. Let's add the curve. Circle. RY 90. And now what we're gonna do is grab this circle and apply rotation. Grab the text and let's go to local. So now let's select the text, circle, and click on a curve, and it should work. And boom, you get your text, you know, rotated here, right? We can now move it on this curve on which axis? Y? Yeah, on the y-axis here. Okay, somewhere here. And visual to mesh. We're gonna hide the circle, and then we can scale this down. Cool, and move it closer, and maybe scale it up a little bit. It's too close. There we go. Something like that. And let's apply rotation. Let's apply scale. And now we need to clean it, okay? So, because it's probably gonna be a bit of a mess, like you see here. So GG and clean that, and actually let's do an operations clean mesh. They should help tremendously. GG here. Fix that. We can, you know, fix these bulls here because they're terrible. Hopefully. Press 3 to clean it. Then maybe we can combine these two into one. There we go. Let's see the M here. Well, we could just combine these two here like that. There we go. 2 is fine. Let's see the V. Bit of a problem here, and that's it. Cool. So now let's add the modifier solidify. Press 2 to solidify it both ways, right? And in fact, before we do that, let's just shrink wrap it. So Q and shrink wrap. Cool. Now we're going to apply visual to mesh. Grab this one and let's add a solidify modifier. Press 2 to do it both ways. Cool. And let's apply this. In fact, let's make it a little bit less insane. Kind of like that. Visual to mesh and difference. And then we can run sharpen on this. It should work. There we go. That's cool. So we got this tire name here, which is awesome. And now we're gonna be adding mattes and mattes and shaders. So let's expand this here, and let's go to cycles because bevel will not work otherwise. And select that, Control Alt M and add matte. Well, this one we cannot do. Maybe select this, Shift select that, and copy. Peachy. Now what we need to do here is maybe increase the clear coat because there's gonna be some paint on it, and maybe make it less dark, maybe kind of like a gunmetal. This one could be silverish. We could actually copy the matte here and simply, clear this value and create a different sort of a variation here. And the tire should be black, right? So They should be non-metallic, right, and really rough and really black. Not pure black, but really dark. Now we got these grooves, which is looking pretty cool, and also we need to fix this text. But before we do that, let's go to Shader Editor and Object, and then search for bevel here. And we need to plug it in to normal, okay? And let's go to see the value here. Let's increase iterations to 9. This is going to be a higher resolution, and change it to like 0.2 or something, or even maybe 0.003. That's maybe a bit too rough. Maybe 4, something like that. Cool. How is our text looking? Pretty badass. So now what we can do is we can select these. All right. Okay. And add a new mod. And new. And make it yellowish maybe. And make it non-metallic. And kind of shiny because it's a paint, right? And a sign. And that's pretty badass. Cool. Maybe we could make this a little bit, maybe blue. Actually, no, this yellowish kind of looks cool. Maybe red or orange. Actually, it's okay. Sweet. And now we need to copy the bevel. So, you know, select the tire and Control-C that. Click here, Control-V, and plug it in. So this is sorted, and here Control-V and plug it in, right? Now this one should be a little bit more metallic, so less beveled. This is way too beveled. So let's go here and make it small, maybe 1. There we go, that's much better. This one could be at 2. So also a bit more metallic, right? And I think we're looking pretty good. Now this tire could be a little bit brighter maybe. Not as dark. This kind of stands out. Yeah, that's awesome. And you know, we grab a plane, drop it down, make sure that this tire is actually on the plane, not floating, right? Something like that. And then we're going to apply scale and add some solidification, apply some mud to it. Maybe that's insanity. Let's just collapse this because we have no space. And let's make it rougher. And maybe add some clear coat. And let's see, that metallic actually could be metallic. Could make it a bit bluish to offset this kind of yellowish of this tire. Maybe less saturated, kind of bluish, not blue. Okay. Rotate this. Actually, let's set the camera with page down, and let's change the ratio here to. In fact, you know what? We can shoot it in the wide angle. It's going to be more difficult. So. Lock to view, click on this tire, and let's just, you know, adjust the angle here. Also, the focal length should be something like 135. It's gonna be way more interesting. Shoot from the bottom, like that. This is gonna be a bit too wide, maybe. So, let's see here. Maybe 2560. Maybe that's better. Put it somewhere here, and page down, unlock from view. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna place all these elements into one collection, so new collection and tire 1, and then we're gonna create an instance here, copy collection T1, and we can, you know, move it. So a GX, move it in here, and we could place it somewhere here, rotate it. Let's just turn this off. Individual regions, there we go. Where's my camera? Here. And we could place it somewhere here so you can see kind of a profile of this tire a bit better. And we could rotate it on XX, yeah, so this text is in a different position. And GX, move it in here somewhere to the edge, maybe. Kind of like that, to leave a bit more space here. This camera could be shifted to the right, so we can use the Shift X function here. So there's a little bit less space here on this side. We are actually about to publish, maybe if you're watching this video, so they published a new course on rendering. It's about framing, lighting, rendering, composition, compositing. So if you're struggling with any of these, I would suggest you grab it. It's a fantastic course. It will help you tremendously with, you know, becoming better at creating renders like this. So here we're going to grab that in GXX and extend it and easy and move it up, and then GXX and move it out to create an infinite background. And then we're going to sharpen it, go back here, and now we got a really nice situation going on. Now we need to remove all the junk we don't need, so let's just you know, cut it with a knife here. In fact, before we do that, let's move this a little bit to the right side, so here to cover this corner, there we go. Then we can cut it, so select that K and let's just slice this here like this, and we can delete anything that we don't need. So all the faces that we don't need here, we can just basically delete them, okay? So all that can go. You don't want to obstruct light in your scene. And now we can grab some cool HDRI. I think this is kind of decent. The brighter the background, the more light's going to be reflected back into the objects, right? So maybe we can stick with the metallic one, kind of looks cool. And drop the roughness so the, you know, floor is reflective. But remember, the floor is going to reflect everything, including the HDRI. So, you know, you see what I mean? Don't overdo it, yeah? Something like this, maybe it's cool. Also remember that you're gonna be editing this, or you should be editing this in Photoshop or any other software, so it could, you know, shouldn't be too contrasty. 1.2 because it's a little bit dark. I think that will do. Let's try to create a render. Now if you'd like to learn my render settings, go to my UI video on YouTube. Everything is there, so you can, you know, copy the settings, no problem. These tires are a bit too bright. I think they need to be darker, so select the tires and go to here, tire, go to matte, and maybe make it more rough and darker if possible. Maybe reduce the specular. Tires are supposed to be really rough, okay? You know, they cannot be too reflective, right? They have to be kind of like matte almost, yeah? So that's a little bit better. That looks more like a rubber to me. Awesome. Wait a minute, why takes so much time to render this? Hang on, let me see the settings. Sampling 4000. How about now? Let's enable compositing, PG, layout, render, let's go. You don't need 4000 samples, you need 300. And the denoiser, and you're good to go. So the quality is gonna be superb. And now what you want to do is you want to create another render without the background. So turn it off and render one more time. The reason why I do that is because I want to have the opportunity to select the tires in Photoshop and adjust them independently from the background. Here, let's see if I want to increase the contrast, or, you know, increase the clarity. I can do it separately. Doesn't take much to render, like a few seconds and you're done. So this could be render number 2, right? Now, like I said, guys, there is a massive course. It's either already released or will be released very soon. It's a flagship course from Blender Bros on lighting, composition, framing, compositing, and there's just a ton of information over there, both practical and theoretical. So if you want to get better at renders, which I personally think are the most important thing in your 3D career, because that's how you sell yourself to the world, grab the course and fix all the problems that you have in terms of rendering.